In the small town of Ravenswood, Halloween was more than just a holiday. It was a tradition steeped in eerie folklore. Every year, the townspeople would gather for a massive celebration, but beneath the festive fog, there was an unspoken rule: never stay out past midnight, for on that night, the boundary between the living and the dead was said to blur, allowing malevolent spirits to roam free. Mia Turner had just moved to Ravenswood with her parents, unaware of the town's dark history. At 16, she was an adventurous soul, always seeking out the unknown, her curiosity often getting her into trouble. This Halloween, she was determined to make new friends and blend into the town's traditions. So when she was invited to a Halloween party by a group of popular kids from her new school, she eagerly accepted. The party was held at an old, abandoned mansion on the outskirts of town, a place whispered about in hushed tones. Legend had it that the mansion was haunted by the spirit of a woman who had been wronged and brutally murdered on Halloween night over a century ago. They called her the Lady in Black, a vengeful ghost who cursed anyone who dared trespass on her property after midnight. The night was alive with the energy of Halloween. Children dressed in costumes ran through the streets. Houses were adorned with jack-o'-lanterns, and the air was filled with the scent of caramel apples and burning wood. As Mia approached the mansion, she felt a chill run down her spine. The house loomed before her, its darkened windows like hollow eyes staring into her soul. Yet, her excitement overshadowed any sense of fear. Inside, the mansion was a labyrinth of decaying grandeur. The walls were covered in peeling wallpaper, and the air was thick with dust. The floorboards creaked underfoot, and every shadow seemed to hold a secret. But the party was in full swing. Water, music, and the clinking of glasses filled the air, pushing away any lingering dread. As the night wore on, the crowd began to thin. By 11:30, only a handful of people remained, including Mia and a few others who had been dared to stay until the stroke of midnight. They gathered in the grand parlor, the center of the mansion, where an enormous, cracked mirror hung above a cold, empty fireplace. Ever heard the story of the Lady in Black? Jake, one of the older boys, asked as they sat in a circle, passing around a bottle of whiskey. His voice was low, almost a whisper, but it carried an unsettling weight. "Yeah, another girl," Lily replied. "They say she appears in that mirror at midnight if you call her name 3 times. Mia's heart raced. She had always been drawn to ghost stories, and this one was no different. "What happens if she appears?" she asked, her voice steady but her eyes wide with anticipation. Jake leaned in closer, his expression serious. "If she appears, she drags you into the mirror with her, trapping your soul for eternity." A nervous laugh escaped one of the boys, but Mia noticed that no one else joined in. The atmosphere had shifted, the earlier joviality replaced with a growing unease. As the clock in the hall struck 11:45, Jake stood up, a mischievous grin on his face. "Let's do it. Let's summon her." There was a moment of hesitation, but the alcohol had loosened their inhibitions. One by one, they agreed. Mia, her curiosity piqued, was the last to stand, though a knot of dread had begun to form in her stomach. They gathered before the mirror, their reflections distorted in the cracked glass. Jake went first, staring into the mirror's depths. "Lady in Black, Lady in Black, Lady in Black," he intoned, his voice barely above a whisper. For a moment, nothing happened. The room was silent, the only sound the ticking of the clock. Then, just as Mia began to think it was all a joke, the temperature in the room plummeted. A cold, oppressive air settled over them, and the flames in the candles flickered before going out entirely. Mia's breath caught in her throat as she stared into the mirror. There, behind Jake, a shadow began to take form, a figure clad in black, with hollow eyes and a face twisted in rage. The Lady in Black. Before anyone could react, the mirror cracked with a deafening sound. Spiderwebbing from the center, Jake screamed, stumbling back, but it was too late. The Lady in Black reached out with clawed hands, her fingers wrapping around his throat. With a violent pull, she dragged him into the mirror, his body disappearing into the glass as though it were water. Panic erupted. The others tried to flee, but the door to the parlor slammed shut with an unseen force. Mia felt a cold hand brush her shoulder, and she turned to see the Lady in Black standing inches from her, her hollow eyes boring into Mia's soul. Mia backed away, her heart pounding in her chest. The others pounded on the door, their screams echoing through the mansion, but there was no escape. The Lady in Black moved closer, her presence suffocating, her breath like a winter storm. Desperation took hold of Mia. She remembered the legend of the Lady in Black had been wronged, murdered by a jealous lover. With trembling hands, She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small pendant she had found earlier that night, a trinket left behind by one of the partygoers. It was a locket, old and tarnished, with a photo of a man inside. This was him, wasn't it? Mia whispered, holding the locket up. The one who betrayed you. The lady in black frowned. Her eyes locked on the locket. The air grew still, the oppressive weight lifting slightly. Mia seized the moment, opening the locket and placing it on the floor before the mirror. The lady in black's form began to waver, her rage dimming as she reached out for the locket. The ghostly hand hovered over the pendant before she slowly bent down, taking it into her grasp. As her fingers closed around the locket, her face softened, the twisted mask of anger replaced by sorrow. For a moment, Mia thought it was over, that the lady in black would finally find peace. But as the ghost's form began to fade, a smile, cold and cruel, curled on her lips. "You will take my place," the lady in black whispered, her voice echoing in Mia's mind. Mia screamed as the ghost lunged, her hand passing through Mia's chest. Pain, sharp and excruciating, shot through her body. The last thing Mia saw was her own reflection in the mirror, eyes wide in terror, lips parted in a silent scream as the world around her dissolved into darkness. The next morning, the townspeople found the mansion empty, the partygoers gone without a trace. The mirror in the parlor was shattered, and among the broken glass lay a single, tarnished locket. But if you looked closely, you could see the faintest reflection of a young girl, her face pale and eyes hollow, trapped behind the glass.